If you really want to get your head around the strange, fascinating world of quantum mechanics, you've got to start by visiting the world it replaced, classical physics. But we're not talking about the stuff you did in high school. Nope. Guided by R. Shanker's amazing textbook, we're going to explore the super elegant and powerful reformulations of classical mechanics, which it turns out were the essential prequel to the entire quantum story. So here's the thing. Newton's laws, like good old F equals ma, are absolute masterpieces. I mean, they can predict everything from the arc of a cannonball to the orbit of a planet with just stunning accuracy. For centuries, they were the undisputed laws of the universe. So why would physicists even bother to completely rewrite something that already worked so incredibly well? Well, that's the central question we're going to dig into today. All right, let's map out our journey. First, we're going to move beyond Newton's kind of brute force approach. Then we'll explore this really profound idea called the path of least action. After that, we'll take a trip into Hamilton's beautiful abstract world of phase space, uncover the deep, deep connection between symmetry and conservation, and finally, we'll build the bridge that takes us right to the front door of quantum mechanics. Okay, first stop, we need to see why Newton's method, as great as it is, has its limits. And then we'll see how physicists like Lagrange found a much, much more elegant way to talk about how things move. The big difference here is all about perspective. See, Newton's way of doing things is very local. It's like taking one tiny step at a time. It calculates the forces on an object right now to figure out where it's going to be in the very next instant. You have to kind of inch your way along to build the whole path. But Lagrange's approach, it's global. It looks at the start point and the end point, and somehow it figures out the entire path in one single elegant calculation. And it does this by using a single number, a scalar, instead of wrestling with all these different force vectors. It just makes ridiculously complex problems way, way simpler. So how does this global view actually work? I mean, how can it know the whole path at once? Well, it's based on one of the most profound and frankly, kind of weird ideas in all of physics, the principle of least action. The secret ingredient is a function called the Lagrangian, which we just call L. And it looks deceptively simple. It's just the kinetic energy of a system minus its potential energy. But here's the magic trick. That one simple expression contains everything you need to know about the dynamics of the entire system, all of it. And this is how it gets used. So imagine a particle needs to get from point A to point B. It could take basically an infinite number of different routes, right? The principle of least action says that the path it actually takes is the one special path that makes a quantity called the action as small as possible. It's as if nature is fundamentally, lazy. It's always looking for the most efficient, economical way to get things done. Now, the benefits of thinking this way are just huge. For starters, you're just dealing with one number, not a tangled mess of vectors. You can also pick whatever coordinates make the problem easiest, which is a massive help. But the real magic, the real showstopper, is how it just effortlessly reveals conservation laws. If one of your coordinates, let's say an angle of rotation, doesn't even show up in the Lagrangian formula, we call that coordinate cyclic. And just from that simple fact, a deep truth pops out. The momentum that goes with that coordinate, in this case angular momentum, has to be conserved. It just falls right out of the math. Now, as slick as the Lagrangian was, the story doesn't stop there. A physicist named Hamilton came along, looked at what Lagrange did, and found an even deeper, even more powerful way to see the universe. Now, this might seem like a small tweak, but trust me, it's a monumental shift in how we think. Lagrange used position and velocity. Hamilton decided that momentum wasn't just some result of motion, it was a fundamental independent variable all on its own. So he rewrote the rules of the game using position and momentum as the two pillars of his system. An essential tool was the Hamiltonian, or H. And just look at this. For most of the systems we care about, it's simply the kinetic energy plus the potential energy. In other words, the Hamiltonian is the total energy of the system. I mean, that just feels so much more intuitive and physically meaningful than the Lagrangian, doesn't it? This new focus on momentum opens up this absolutely stunning way of visualizing a system's state, phase space. I want you to imagine a huge, multidimensional space where a single point doesn't just tell you where everything is. It tells you where everything is and exactly what its momentum is. One single point gives you a complete, instantaneous snapshot of the entire system. The whole history of that system, its past and its future, is just a single, continuous line drawn through this amazing abstract space. So let's just put them head to head for a second. Where Lagrange's method gives you n kind of complicated second-order equations, Hamilton's gives you 2n much simpler first-order equations. It all comes down to this fundamental shift, from using velocity as your key variable to using momentum, and from thinking about a space of positions to thinking about a complete space of states. So why is this Hamiltonian picture so incredibly powerful? Well, it's because it makes one of the deepest connections in all of physics, the link between symmetry and conservation, just crystal clear. This is Noether's theorem, and it's honestly one of the most beautiful and important ideas ever discovered. What it says is that if your system has a symmetry, meaning you can do something to it that leaves it looking exactly the same, then there must be a corresponding quantity that's conserved, that stays constant for all time. And in Hamilton's world, this isn't just some abstract philosophical point. You can see it right there in the equations. If your physics doesn't change when you just pick up your lab and move it across the room, that's translational symmetry, then total momentum has to be conserved. If it doesn't matter which way you point your experiment, that's rotational symmetry, then total angular momentum is conserved. And if the laws of physics are the same today as they were yesterday, time shift symmetry, then total energy is conserved. It's a truly profound and beautiful connection. Okay, so we've taken this incredible journey, right? From Newton to Lagrange to Hamilton, and things have gotten more abstract and more elegant at every single step. But it wasn't just to make the math look pretty. Now we finally get to the real payoff. And hey, don't just take my word for it. As Schenker himself puts it, these reformulations weren't just intellectual games. It turns out they were the perfect foundation, the absolutely essential mathematical language needed to build the entire theory of quantum mechanics. They were the launchpad. The final piece of this classical puzzle is a clever mathematical tool called the Poisson bracket. You can think of it as a little machine that Hamilton's system uses to calculate how any physical quantity changes over time. And as it turns out, this specific tool has a direct one-to-one twin in the quantum world. And this is the punchline. This slide is nothing less than a translation guide, a Rosetta Stone from the classical world to the quantum one. The classical Hamiltonian becomes the quantum Hamiltonian operator. A precise state in phase space becomes a quantum state vector. Every physical thing you can measure becomes a quantum operator. In that Poisson bracket, it becomes the famous quantum commutator. Even Hamilton's equations for motion map directly onto Schrödinger's equation. The entire mathematical structure of quantum mechanics was already there, just hiding in plain sight inside this very elegant version of classical physics. It's unbelievable. So, you see, the journey from Newton to Hamilton wasn't really about finding a better way to solve old problems. It was about discovering a deeper, more fundamental language for describing reality. A language so powerful, it held the secrets of the quantum revolution decades before anyone knew it existed. And that just makes you wonder, doesn't it? What fundamental truths are hiding in the mathematics we use today, just waiting for us to see them in a whole new light?